It can be so tempting to look at words that you don't know when you're watching online content like TV shows and movies when you're trying to learn a different language. However, in this video, I'm going to tell you why it's a bad idea to look at words compared to just going along with it, and understand that your brain will work most effectively to learn that language if you don't keep pausing all the time. In this video, I'm going to cover exactly why. My name's James, I'm native in English, and I can speak Spanish and Italian. I help people reach their language goals. And just to mention, these techniques apply to any language. But ultimately, the goal is to learn your target language in the shortest time possible, and that's what I'm going to tell you in this video. So firstly, imagine this: you're sat down with your partner or a friend or family or someone, and you're watching something in your native language. Say it's a TV show that you're excited to watch. You're watching it, and then suddenly your partner or friend says, "Oh, pause it a sec, I want to go and get something or get a drink." And you're like, "Oh, okay, fine." And it's just on that screen, it's just paused. And you might get your phone out or something, and you're a bit bored, and then they come back. So the act of doing that and pausing it annoys you. So imagine if you're trying to do that but to learn a different language. Every time you pause or you're disturbed, or even in the cinema, if someone disturbs you or walks past you or asks about maybe the seat next to you, you have to stop what you're watching, look at them, think about what they're asking, and then get back into it. And whatever's happened in those few seconds, you feel like you're out of the zone again, so you've lost the emotional involvement in what's happening. So why does that matter? Well, when it comes to learning a language most effectively, our brains are more responsive and remember words and phrases better when it's in context with high emotion. So if you imagine when you've been on holiday or in a different country and you hear a word and you might think, actually, I remember that word, I heard it then and in this context when someone was shouting at someone else. So when there's a lot of emotion, you better remember the words and phrases. So imagine if you're watching a TV show in Spanish and you're getting involved into it, you might be watching the subtitles in English, for example, if you're a native English speaker trying to learn Spanish. The more you can emotionally involve yourself into what you're watching, the better your mind is able to remember what's going on. And context matters, because if you see someone pass a bottle of water or do something to someone else, then you're like, ah, okay, that's interesting. You're learning what's happening. And also, the more invested you get emotionally, the less likely you are to stop and go, it's too hard to understand this. I'm not understanding any of it. I'll just go and watch something in my native language. So it's twofold, really. The first bit is to help your brain learn words most effectively by making sure that while you're invested in what's happening, your brain is then more likely to remember the words and phrases it hears. And secondly, it'll keep you consistent because you'll actually enjoy what's going on rather than pausing it every 5 seconds. Because let's be honest, many of you might have tried watching TV shows in your target language, but it does require an extra effort, even like 10 or 20% more effort to think, okay, I'm listening to what's going on, but then I'm reading the subtitles. I'm not really looking at the faces because your eyes have to go from face to words, face to words. That's what happens. So you have to accept that a bit more mental effort is needed than watching it in your native language. So, that being said, the least effort you can give yourself, the better. So if you stop all distractions, perfect. And if you see a word that you don't understand and you pause it, you get out your phone, you load a translation app, and you say, okay, that's interesting, cool. You've already lost what's happening. You've paused it, but you'll be out of the flow mentally in what's happening in the past few seconds. You'll forget what emotions the characters are feeling. A good test of this is next time someone disturbs you and you try and get back into something, you might find yourself rewinding 10 seconds. Especially on Netflix. I do that loads, so you might do the same. Now, secondly, the question you might be asking is, if I'm not pausing the TV show to look up a certain word that I don't know, how am I ever going to learn that word? Well, realistically, if it's a word that's common in everyday language, you'll hear it more than once anyway over the time. And as babies and young kids, they don't learn by looking up every single word. They associate a word with the context. For example, if they're watching TV or watching their mum or dad cook on a stove, and then their parent goes, ow, that's hot, or they burn themselves or something, and they say hot, then they think, right, stove, hot, and they link it together. It's a weird example, but you get what I mean. They link words based on the context. So really, if you're watching something and you don't understand a word, just continue watching it and resist the urge to look it up, because you'll continue anyway, and what will happen is you'll watch more of the content over time. Your mind will notice patterns because naturally your brain is looking for patterns, and it does that without you even knowing. So if it sees the same word using different contexts and matches them up and thinks, oh, okay, that word must mean that then, without being told, that's perfect. That's actually better than looking it up on a translation app, because most likely if you're on an app you see it and you're like, oh, okay, that's interesting, but that's not the most effective method for your brain. As a kid you didn't do that, you just learnt by context, and everyone knows that kids tend to be the best at language learning. So to summarize that point, you might think that if you don't look up a word in the moment, you'll never learn it. But actually, if you keep watching that content and different content, over time, you'll naturally learn and understand that word anyway. And literally, there's so much more I can tell you about why that is the case and why it's controversial, but it's true. There's so much evidence to back it up. What I've done is I've made a landing page in the description, you'll see it in the link below, where if you enter your email address, I'll send you a daily email written by myself to teach you more on how to watch content and videos, anything online content related, to help you learn your target language in less time. time. And it works for any language because it's not language specific, it's the principle of how your brain works. And as I mentioned, there's a link below in the description, and it's free because I can't cram that much information into a video like this. Moving on, you need to also understand the mentality behind accepting that if you don't know a word, you're fine with that. And you don't have to understand every single word as well. So what will happen is you'll be watching something and you'll see what's going on, and you'll see the English subtitles written in front of you, and you'll hear a lot of words and you just won't understand them. But I need you to believe that your brain in time will understand more context as it listens to it. Also, outside of watching content and TV, it's a really good idea to put on a podcast or something audio only while you're commuting to work. So just have it on in the background. If you've got, say, half an hour to and from work, that's an hour every day. If that's over 7 days or 5 days, that's 5 hours of passively learning. And that helps massively because then that trains your ears, or your brain, to understand what that language sounds like, so that next time you watch content about it, you're more familiar with the words. So I'm saying, in addition to watching online content, you can also passively listen to language, and it will help you in turn understand what you're watching, and therefore speed up the process of language learning. And the final point is, many people underestimate the power of non-verbal communication. So body language, mannerisms, things like that really. So if you're watching something and you're like, what's going on? There's some two people fighting or having an argument, you can take context from that, okay, the words associated with that will be negative. So you might be on a holiday and you're listening to two people talk about stuff or joke or something. The context matters massively. So my advice is, don't just listen for words, or don't just try and focus on what words you don't know, which is what you'll be doing at the moment. You'll be trying to work out, okay, I don't know that word, let's look it up. Instead of doing that, work out in general, what could they be saying? What's the general idea? Is someone wanting some information? Is someone giving advice? Is someone asking questions or something? What is the purpose of the conversation? And that is the case across humans. We pass information, we have discussions, maybe you're catching up, small talk with a colleague, and that looks different to if you're having a conversation or you're explaining something to someone. So we all have different mannerisms and way of expressing ourselves that aren't using words, but you can use that information to guide what you think it could be and the context of new words. Anyway, I have covered a lot, and again, in the description there'll be a link to a 7-day email course written by myself that's free, that gives you more information on how to learn any language super quickly watching online content. And I will leave you with this. So in the top corner here, you'll see a recommended video from YouTube. And YouTube is really smart, and it thinks that if you watch this video, you will reach your language goals in much less time because you're watching this and it's relevant for this video. So go ahead and click it now, and I'll see you later.